All right. Wait for everyone to log on. We'll get started in just a minute. What's up? All right, Instagram, can you hear me? If you can hear me, put in the chat box, be like, I can hear you. If you're for some reason also on the XCOM Facebook, if you can put that you hear me on there too. It doesn't show frozen on my end. Might just be a bad connection. Perfect. All right. Well, people will trickle in slowly, I'm sure. If you are a part of Instagram influencing at all, please feel free to shout my name out. I'm just here to answer questions. I'm not here to sell anybody anything. Really just here to help. If you're in any of the Telegram groups or anything like that, feel free to broadcast. It's a free thing, right? Obviously, Instagram Live is free. Like I said, I'm not going to get to the end and then try to pitch you on anything. Nothing like that. I think this is probably the first time I've done this call in a year that I actually have something that I am kind of selling, but I'm not going to sell it to you or pitch it to you today. So don't worry about it. Again, if you're telling your friends about this, again, it's just hard, good knowledge. And it's actually knowledge from someone that's done drop shipping for a while, and not just someone who made a sale and said, oh, I'm going to go teach a course now, right? Because I don't have a course. So one of the main things I do want to cover is going to be how to find great products. And, hopefully this can be useful whether you're just starting out or even if you're doing $10,000, $20,000 a day. Though honestly, if you're doing $20,000 a day, you should probably get off of this and go fulfill some orders because you probably have too many of them. But as I go through this, feel free to ask me questions related to what I'm talking about. And also, if you have just unrelated questions, hopefully related to e-com or advertising or something like that, marketing, please feel free to put them in the chat. I am going to go through on both the XCOM site as well as the Facebook or Instagram Live. And I am going to go through and just double check all of those and answer any questions at the end. I only have about half an hour, so I do want to jump into it. So again, questions related, questions unrelated, feel free to go for it. So, starting off pretty basic, right? So sourcing great products. I think one of the biggest questions that I first want to kind of tackle is a lot of people say, look, e-com is oversaturated. And if you've heard me talk before, I kind of think that's bullcrap, right? I don't think it's true. If e-com's oversaturated, then why is Amazon having best year over year? Why does online sales continue to grow more and more, not only for holidays, but year over year as well? Right? If e-com was too saturated, all these businesses would be out of business, right? Or Amazon would stagger out and fall, and it's not. So e-com is not saturated. That being said, it is becoming harder and more difficult than it would have been maybe 3 or 4 years ago, or even 2 years ago, in order to sell and really get people's attention, because a lot of people understand and they realize now, hey, e-com isn't. There's somebody selling something, and I'm sure as you go through some of the comments, you're like, oh, free plus shipping, and you probably, yeah, exactly, why don't all keep closing down, right? You probably look at things and you're like, free plus shipping, and you probably see like a million comments on shitty e-com stores that are giving us all a bad name that says, Takes 3 weeks to get here, takes 9 weeks to get here, cheap Chinese shit, right? Or cheap Chinese crap. I don't know if I can cuss on live. But right, you're gonna see that a lot. And unfortunately, that does make it a little bit harder. So when sourcing products, I'm not going to tell you going out there and finding a watch or finding one of those like lion bracelets isn't going to be successful. Yeah, of course we can. I'm not going to tell you that stuff's not going to be successful, but it is unlikely to be as easy to advertise and market as maybe another more unique product would be. So the first thing is when looking for products, please just try to keep an eye out. Try to make sure they're unique, right? It's not the same thing that you see over and over again. Now, that doesn't mean if you don't see something selling very well on Facebook that was advertised to you, maybe advertised on Instagram that you scrolled through and it has a ton of engagement and it's doing well, I mean, go for it. Freaking try to sell it. I mean, some of my best sellers have been items that I've stolen at least stolen idea-wise from other sellers doing well that were advertised to me. So feel free to do that. Next, I don't really want to pitch go to AliExpress and look at the best sellers. Go to Amazon and look at the best sellers. Yes, they are the best sellers. Yes, they do well. Yes, there are people with success stories on those. I got to be honest, personally, I've never had a massive win because I've purchased or I went to sell a best-selling item off of Amazon. No, what I found is those are actually my worst items. And maybe that's just me, right? Maybe I'm just a terrible marketer. I don't think so, based on my results. But for me, it's just more competition. It's a little bit harder to do that. So I encourage you to still look at best sellers, but look at best sellers based on niches and categories, and maybe just kind of look for the unique items, not just here's an iPhone case, right? If you go to eBay and you look at the best sellers, you're going to see iPhones. That doesn't mean you should go start drop shipping iPhones. Doesn't mean you shouldn't, but it doesn't mean you should go do that because it's not really the best item. It's not unique. So try to find things that are unique. One of my two other types of favorite sites to look at that are commonly missed. Actually, 3. Let's go with 3. 1, Groupon. Right? Groupon is the place where people go for cheap stuff, which usually means it's shipped directly from a person doing e-com like us, or it is shipped actually from a drop shipper, or not a drop shipper, a distributor themselves from China. So a lot of the best sellers, though, that you see with those do really well, and a lot of people don't use Groupon or don't believe in Groupon. So by taking some of the best sellers off of Groupon and reselling them on your store, I wouldn't say my best-selling items, but I'd say my 5 to 10, like number 5 through number 10 best-selling items have actually all come from Groupon, the main pages. The next one I would highly suggest is using Etsy. Now, when you're looking at Etsy, one thing you have to be a little cognizant of is a lot of that stuff, right? Etsy's really well known for being a site that is about homemade, do-it-yourself, things like that. And you're probably not going to get away with drop shipping do-it-yourself. You could. There might be people that are able to do it. But things to do with Etsy is, 1, look at things that aren't do-it-yourself. And also look at ideas that you can replicate, right? Sometimes people sell shirts that do really, really well on Etsy, or like mugs or designs. In fact, I have one design that did really, really well that I got from Etsy myself, from someone else that was designing it. And being able to take that and replicate it on your own store. And sometimes Etsy designers will actually work with you, right? So if you went to one of the Etsy designers and it looks like they have a lot of business, they're likely mass producing. So it's not too uncommon for you to be able to go to them, which I've done as well, is go to them and say, hey, go to Etsy.com. Boom, Etsy. Yeah, it's spelled correctly. So going to Etsy and finding people that make their own stuff and saying, you're already doing really well, how would you like to blow up your business even more, right? How much could you give it to me? I'll buy from you. We can start as like a one-off ordering system, and we can put it together however you want, and then maybe like if it does well, we can do bulk, profit sharing, whatever the case is. Something where you're able to use, and again, because Etsy's do-it-yourself and it's very well known for being unique, you're going to hit that unique market niche that you wouldn't find somewhere else, right? It's not going to be the same people selling the same damn bracelet or same necklace that you see on every store everybody's selling. And I think one of the other more hidden gems is Pinterest. And if you're on one of my last lives that I did kind of with one of the groups and Team Jet Set, you heard me talk a little bit about this, and I'm sorry for being repetitive, but I still think it's underused and a question I get a lot. Pinterest is huge, right? Pinterest, you see things that are drop shipped, you see do-it-yourself, and you see individual items, but it's a great resource. right? And if you have Chrome as one of your browsers, download Chrome. If not, then go download Chrome. It's free. Get Chrome. Go to the App Store or the app selection for Chrome. Download what's called Pinterest Sort. Pinterest, I think. Pinterest Sort, and then go to Pinterest and sort the items. And you can sort the items by most liked, I don't think most purchases, but like by most likes, most shares. And if you're looking at that stuff, boom, right there, you have a list of items that are selling the best, and very likely, at least from whenever I do it, you're going to see what's trending really well. And if you're unsure if those are going to do well, what you can do, yeah, exactly. If you get the right pin, it'll change your business for good. I mean, and if you, if you're able to take those items, you can then find that item. If you're unsure if it's going to do well, if it looks like kind of an old pin, which is what they call the little post from Pinterest, you can then go to Google Trends. Again, another free resource. Go to Google Trends, type in whatever the trend of the item is that you're looking at, and see what the trend is. Maybe it's down, maybe it's up, maybe it just came down, like fidget spinners, right? And just be able to re-verify kind of what you're looking at to see if it's a great item. So again, 3 commonly unused websites: Groupon, Etsy, and Pinterest in order for drop shipping. Unfortunately, Etsy and Pinterest and Groupon, when trying to find items, you cannot use Oberlo. There are other sites out there that do. But like I said, I promise no affiliate links for that stuff. So there are other dropshipping type of sites like Oberlo that would allow you to do that from those types of sites. And the next thing is, of course, like I mentioned, just Facebook, right? If you're trying to find something that's great with Facebook, you can go into Facebook search, and you can search by post, like top post, when you're actually just in the search bar, and you can type in whatever you want your niche is, and you can do like in quotation marks. So for example, if I go to the Facebook search, I'll search only for posts, which is one of the selections you get, and I will do free shipping, right, in quotation marks, and then I'll type in baby. Or I'll type in, like baby's like one of my niche stores that I sold. So, or I would do get yours now in quotes, and then baby, or something like that. And it would then show me with that lingo, any of the top posts with it. And sometimes they're not in order, but you can kind of scroll down and look. And if you see something with a ton of engagement, it's very unlikely, at least I know myself as a marketer, it's unlikely that I would sit there and pay $10, $20, $30, $40, $50, $100 a day for an ad to run if it was not making me sales, especially if you've noticed it's been running for a while, right? So one thing to do is really look at how many shares it has, how many comments, what's the engagement like, and it's unlikely because it's a Facebook ad to have fake engagement, right? So not something you have to worry about like with Instagram posts and Instagram stores and things like that of, oh my God, how many of these are real and how many are fake people following and blah, blah, blah. You don't have to worry about that with this. And so being able to go through and look for the most shares, most comments, and you see something that's been trending really well and people have good feedback on it, right there. I mean, that's a great way to steal somebody else's product. It's not really stealing their product because, they got it from AliExpress too, most likely, or Alibaba or one of those other sites. But still a great way to find good items that are proven winners without you having to test their winners. All you need to test is the audience, but you know for sure that item is a winner already. So, and then I think the last thing is always check reviews, guys. Like I said, you don't need to get something from the top Amazon list and top eBay list, right? And that's something that you'll see a lot of gurus push is just look at Amazon, just look at eBay. That's gonna, boom, the top list are gonna have everything you need. And I hate that, right? That's from people that either did this before or they just don't do it anymore, whatever the case is. Yes, it has all you need, but it does have some of the top items, but it doesn't have the more unique items, which is really what you want to be selling. So if you can sell something unique, that's killer. But also going through and checking the reviews, right? I've seen a lot of stores where they sell something and all the comments are like, this is crap, this is trash, this sucked. The store should probably stop selling that item. Let's be honest, we're not trying to build or just make a bunch of money like in a minute, because it's not going to happen. Because if you've done e-com, you probably didn't make it week one. At least 99% of the people that follow me didn't. I didn't. And you really want to focus on building a business, something where people appreciate it and they like, what you're selling and all of that. So if you just pick an item and just try to sell it to make a bunch of money, you're going to be dealt with returns and pissed off customers and people that aren't going to return to you if you come up with new items or similar items. And that's not what you want, right? So if you look at your items and go to Amazon and try to see if Amazon has any has any reviews on your items, and if whatever site if you see another post that you're stealing, look at their reviews for their items, and really just try to make sure you're getting good items. Don't sell crap at the end of the day, because it's going to come back and bite you in the ass eventually. So I think that's all I have from what I wanted to cover. So what I'll do is I'll go through and I'll look at the questions and comments. Again, if you do have any questions, anything you're curious on, please put them in here. Just a heads up, I am going to talk about things based on my experience, based on the experience of people that I know, based on what I've heard, right? So a lot of testimonial experience, but as I usually mention, my way is not the only way. So as I go through this, keep in mind, there's probably someone out there that's doing 10 times much more money than me, that's doing something the exact opposite way that I'm doing, and maybe it works for them. And if I tried to replicate it, maybe it wouldn't work for me, because it doesn't work for everybody. And that's the crazy part about algorithms and marketing and all that stuff, is it doesn't always work for everybody, and there's always a different way. But I know what's worked for me, and what I've been able to replicate numerous times for myself and others, and so that's what I'm going to talk about today. So let me go through and look at some of these questions. So my Facebook ad strategy is one of the first questions I saw. It's actually pretty simple. A little bit different than some I heard out there actually though too. So my Facebook ad strategy is actually going anywhere with an audience size of 2 to 8 million. I usually like to try to keep it around 4 to 6 million is that sweet spot, but sometimes it's hard to get there. I will target that audience in whatever country I'm trying to target. From there, I'll usually do a $5 to $10 a day. I start now with $10, and I do suggest it because the $5 a day is kind of, it works. Don't get me wrong, it works for some people. It's just kind of old news in my opinion. I always start right away with conversions. That is the campaign that I launch. Though I do start with the pixel objective of view content. I wait until I get 50 view contents, which should happen within 2 or 3 days. If it doesn't, then that likely means either my product sucks or my advertising sucks. And pretty much you've probably heard the phrase that if you're a good marketer, you can sell anything. And so very likely it's your targeting that isn't well off. So you probably need to go back and fix your targeting. But once I get the 50 view contents, I'll then move to add to cart. 2 or 3 days I should have 50 of those, and then I move into purchase. There are people that do it differently. There are people that use PPE, and there's people that are successful with PPE. I'll let you guys know I spend a lot of money, and the reason I'm okay preaching the way that I am right now is I spend a lot of money with Facebook, and Facebook gives me free monthly calls, a few of them actually with them, and some that are paid, and we talk about ad strategies and kind of what I'm doing and what I could be doing better. And as I'm going through that with them, they did actually address me, because I saw the trend somewhere of somebody starting with a PPE ad and then moving it over because they want the social proof. And Facebook actually straight out told me, like, don't do that. They're like, you could, and people do see success with it, but the problem is when you start a PPE ad, your pixel is just looking for engagement and not sales of any sort, right? And then you move it over to a conversion. Yeah, there's some social proof there, but then you move it to conversion, and now you're trying to teach the pixel to do. Now you're trying to teach the pixel how to do conversion types. At the end of the day, it does slow down the sales process, and it does kind of mix up the pixel, which you really just want focused on making sales, right? At the end of the day, that's what's important, is making good sales and happy customers. So they did advise me against doing that, and I do agree with them, and it makes sense. And these are the people that make the freaking algorithm, so I have to agree with them when they advise me to do something. But usually, again, just conversion, view content, add to cart, and then purchase. I do, Facebook Live just came with a question too. I do automatic bidding until my ad is successful. If my ad is successful and it's continually successful, then I do move to manual. Really, because I'm not 100% qualified with manual bidding. I've tried a bunch of different strategies, and they only seem to work for me when I've had a successful ad already and one that's doing well. So I usually just keep it to automatic until it's successful, and then I move to manual bidding. I'll put a link to at the end of this. There's a company called Companion Labs, and they do the manual bidding process for you for like $2 a day or something, and they have like a 7-day free trial. They do gradings and all sorts of crazy stuff. It's actually kind of cool. It saves a lot of time. So see. When it comes to influencers and captions, what would be a good call to action? Well, if you're on this call, I mean, you can post your call to action. One of my things, and actually I see a lot of other people using it now, which is funny, but ABT, always be testing. It's hard to say exactly. I've had some weird stuff work before, and I've had the very common get yours now, shop now work. Usually something that adds a little bit of urgency, or just a simple get yours now, get yours here, very clear to the point, will really get people usually to convert. I say, keep it to the KISS method, keep it simple, stupid, KISS method of just literally just that. Just keep it simple. If somebody wants to buy it, if they're excited by it, swipe up now to get yours, boom, they're going to swipe up now, or click here to get yours, boom, they're going to click right there because they actually want it. How many influencer ads should you try to run in a week? It's kind of a hard question to answer because it really, really can vary. Really just depending on what you're doing, how many products, how you're tracking them. I would say run as many as you can afford as long as you're tracking them correctly, right? If you're tracking them using Google Analytics or even like a shortened bit.ly link or something like that, or a tiny CC, as long as you can keep track of where they're coming from, I would say do as many as possible, because that's the most important thing, right? You don't want to run 50 ads and then be like, okay, well, I got some sales, and let's figure out which one of these people it came from. I can tell you probably only about 20, it was 30% a few months ago, probably only about 20% or so of my marketing budget comes from Instagram now, just because I feel like I'm very, very strong in Facebook, and I found that to be more consistent, and really not even the consistency, but it's less work, and I love less work. And I didn't really want to outsource this process to somebody because I haven't found somebody that is qualified enough to outsource it to. So I don't dabble on Instagram as much as I do the Facebook side, but I've had that success with it. I've done something as simple as one per day, as well as I think the most I've ran in a day for 6 days in a row was I think 6 or 7 per day, and they were all different. Influencers, different times of the day, testing them, and I did that for 2 weeks in a row. Again, it just really varies. That's kind of a broad question. It's a little bit hard to answer that one. What engagement am I looking for? If it's Facebook, then you're just looking for as much as possible, right? Try to find the one with the most engagement. Really simple as that. If you're looking for Instagram, it depends on the following size. As followers get more and more real followers, you're going to notice the level goes down. Like, for example, if you look at, I don't know, we'll just take a big marketing name like Tai Lopez, right? Or Grant Cardone. If you look at theirs, they have a ton of followers. I don't know how many Grant has, but I know like Tai has like 3 million now. I think his are all real followers. I don't think they're like fake people following his account. But what you'll notice is if you look at his account, his engagement rate's only like 3%. Sometimes 2%, right? Because he has a lot of real followers, but that's still pretty high for that many. So I usually try to keep it to at least 5%. Anything above that is just bonus points when you're looking at engagement. So at least 5%, anything higher is great. But as you start getting into the millions, give them some leniency, but you can tell if it's real or not, right? If they're at a 1% or less than 1% with like 3 million followers, they're purchased. Don't waste your time. If they're at... if they have a lot of comments and you're kind of scrolling through the comments real quick and you realize these are all fake, or they could be fake. Again, another thing to just kind of pay attention to. So just really do your research on the people, and don't be afraid to ask them for proof. Right? I always say this, you are paying them. You are their customer to give you like a shout out because you are giving them money in exchange for their service. Don't feel bad about saying, can you send me the analytics, not the specifics, like who bought it and whatnot, but can you send me the analytics for your last campaign? Can you send me a Snapchat or a screenshot of your engagement, of your views, of your chart, whatever, right? Feel free to answer that. If they're afraid to answer that, you shouldn't be buying from them. For testing products on Facebook, what do I focus on? I think I covered that, so you should be good. There will be a replay available. It'll be posted on the X-Commerce group as well as on my feed for 24 hours. X-Commerce group forever. When I say pixel, do I mean the ad? So Facebook Pixel is the, So Facebook Pixel is the basically algorithm or code, the secret sauce that will give you all the data that you want to compile to help you achieve whatever goal you're trying to achieve for that ads account. So if you're, I'm probably not going to explain it on here, but if you just Google how to get my pixel on Facebook Business Manager, it'll walk you through the steps. Definitely want to have that though. You want to attach that if you're doing e-commerce. No matter what you're doing, try to attach that to your site somehow, whether you have to manually code it in or if it's like a shop like Shopify, you can always just plug it in the spot where it has it. But that is the perfect little key right there to figuring out how your ads are performing. And Facebook uses the pixel to formulate data based on what you're trying to achieve in order to get you the best option or the best outcome of what you're trying to achieve for the cheapest cost possible, right? So if you're trying to get sales and your pixel is recognizing that and you're training your pixel to get sales and you're going through the process, then Facebook's going to try to get you more sales. So that way you spend more money on Facebook, Facebook wins, you win, everybody's happy, right? So really, if you don't have a pixel yet, please get one. Even if you're only doing Instagram and you're like, Facebook ads scare the heck out of me, I do not want to do Facebook right now, maybe in the future, get a pixel anyways, put it on your store. That way you can go back when you do decide to go to Facebook and you can be like, oh, look at all these purchases. And you can start making audiences based on people that have already purchased from you. Google ads are great if you have the money for them. Google ads are very expensive, specifically if you're trying to do drop ship items because they are not rare items and they are very, very common. So I do suggest doing Google ads. One of I think my main suggestions for Google ads is really look at dynamic targeting with Google ads. And if you don't know what dynamic targeting is, it is basically like the retargeting ads that people will find after they visit your store. I would say make that a focus if you're going to use Google ads at first. Otherwise, I do usually encourage people to stay away from Google ads when they're starting off, just because it is a little bit harder to get used to and the cost is pretty significant most of the time unless you're a pro with them. I do use Google ads now on any stores that I create, but I actually outsource it to somebody else. I do know how to do it, but I outsource it to somebody else really because it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, and sometimes it costs a lot of money. How long do you test each interest on Facebook? So I don't usually have a ton, right? You'll notice some people like they do a interest, they test each individual interest, or they'll do like 15 ad sets. I don't. I typically run 3 or 4 ad sets with different interests, and I see how they perform. And then from there, I'll start individually testing the interests by taking them out. So I'll actually do, my interests, whatever my campaign is, I'll do 3 of those. I'll see how they do. If only 1 or 2 does well, then I'll stick with that one. And then from there, I'll maybe take out an interest or take out 2 interests and see how my ad performs. Does the cost per click, does the cost per conversion get lower? How does that affect me? And I kind of look at it that way. So I take the build full and then take off. Right? To me, it's almost like a haircut. It's much easier if you have a lot of hair to cut a little bit and to cut a little bit more and to keep cutting more off than it would be to regrow it if you cut too short. That's how I kind of look at them. So, and by the time I get to that phase, usually my ad I already know is winning. Maybe not where I want it to win, but it is still technically winning, which could be even re-breaking even. And so I'm okay with only testing the taking away of interest or the individual interest for 2 or 3 days before I kind of revert back if it's not doing well. I do. The behaviors is actually another thing that, do I narrow down my targeting based on behavior? That's actually another one where Facebook said they're still working on it. And when Facebook tells me they're still working on it, that tells me it's probably in beta and I should avoid it where possible. I've tried using different interests like makes purchases, makes purchases online, which you would think would be a pretty common one. And those ads have actually done like the worst for me. So I do sometimes, I can't think of an example where it's been successful, but I know it has been in the past, but I do suggest you stay away from it. And from Facebook's not direct, but kind of indirect lingo, I would encourage you to just hold off on that a little bit longer as well. When will I be announcing the mentorship winners for who qualified? I will be doing that, I think either Sunday or Monday. I still want to compile a few more. Yeah, good for you, man. If you have better ads, better success with Google ads than Facebook, that's impressive. That's good. You should make a course. I will have a replay up. I will. On the first day's results, how do you know you should keep the ad? I don't. I have never cut an ad on the first day. There have been times where I've wanted, and here's the reason. There have been times where I really, so when I had my mentor, when I first started and actually got to see him in person in exchange for some other stuff, I got to work with him a little bit in person, and I cut one of my ads because day one it wasn't doing well, right? This is when I first started. I was like 15 grand in debt for doing this. And we went through it, and he was like, that's actually pretty good, like, because he would go through and one of the people I was talking to, and he would go through and kind of look at audiences as well, and he's like, your audience pretty much matches up with mine. He's like, you should, he's like, this is what I came up without looking at mine. He pretty much made a complimentary audience to see how they compared, and he's like, they pretty much match up with mine. You killed it after a day, it didn't do well. I'm like, no, it didn't do well. And keep in mind, this guy did 25 million in e-com. Given it was a few years ago, but that was his yearly. I mean, that's impressive. But looking at it, it was he was like, why don't you reactivate the ad and give it 2 or 3 days? And I did. And that ad, even though it didn't make me a ton of money, I know it was giving me, I think it was, at the time starting, keep in mind when I was doing is losing, I think it was giving me like 55 or 60. I don't want to exaggerate the number, but I do believe it was only like $55, $60 worth of profit per day. But that was consistent for like 2 months after I let the ad go. And I would have never had that, right? And that was actually my first win. And I would have never had that if I cut the ad day one, like, because I got scared that the results weren't there, and I wouldn't have just let it optimize and let my pixel mature a little bit. So I don't encourage people to cut it day one. I encourage people just to let it run 3 days. But that's just based on my experience and kind of getting lucky with that. Question, how many stores would you start with? I would start with 1 store. Really trying to do e-com and learn e-com is a beast on its own. Again, it's not a quick get-rich process. Really start with 1 store. It always goes back and forth between general and niche. My first store is a general store. That is still the only store that I have to this day, and that is the store that makes me a ridiculous amount of money when I put some effort into it. So it's hard to go off of that. I think for most people, starting with a niche store is probably the easier way to go, to kind of get used to it and get more depth to ad structures and all that stuff. But yeah, really just stick with 1 store. Pick something great and give it your all. If that does well, then scale out. When I started with 1 store. From there, I started building more stores. And as I built more stores, then it wasn't even the process of me wanting to run more stores. I would build them for about a year, and then I resold them on like Shopify Exchange or Flippa or something like that. So one of the questions, you mentioned to me on Instagram that when you get a lot of clicks and no sales, it's because someone else has a similar audience but a bigger budget. So, yes. So sometimes you're going to realize as you have an ad, it's going to suddenly drop or die, right? And there's a bunch of different things that could affect your ads, right? If you have ads running on Facebook, probably Instagram is the same thing, but Facebook as well. If you have ads running, you could notice all of a sudden that they just suck, right? And those could be a couple of things. One, that could be because other people are marketing more money and the niche is becoming saturated, and the amount of money that you're spending per day and your automatic bid, which is why when you're successful, I suggest going to manual bid, really just isn't keeping up, because you have these other companies that have more money, or people with more money that are suddenly selling their stuff and doing manual bidding, and they're saying, I'll pay $10 per conversion. Whereas your automatic bid at a $5 or $10 budget only has you at like $1 per conversion or 20 cents per conversion. So they win every time. So that's really what I meant by that, is someone is using, and they're very likely as well targeting an audience that's similar to yours, right? Let's be honest, I don't think a lot of people have the exact same audience, but when we all start selling something, if we have a cat store, it's probably the first thing we type in, cat, right? And then we start looking at more things, and we start kind of diving down into that. But odds of probability says there's a lot of people selling something very similar to you with very similar targets in their audience. And again, if they're daily budget is higher than yours or their bid is higher than yours, then they're likely to get the audience, they're likely to get the sales. And they're likely to get the sales from the right people that are going to buy, because Facebook is going to, of course they want everyone to win, but Facebook's really going to give the advantage to the people that are spending the most money with them. So, sometimes I do encourage you to test out raising your budget. So if you have something that's doing well for a couple days and then all of a sudden, or a week or months or whatever, and it drops, give it a day. Don't freak out, right? Just like anything, stocks, crypto, like don't freak out day one. But then go back and raise your budget and see if that helps. Or raise the bid, right? Go to manual bidding and try to raise the manual bid to what it is you think you can afford, and see if that helps. And most of the time, I bet you it will. Exactly, it'll give you low quality traffic. So if you do a $10 a day ad for 3 days, can you just do it for $30 and get the same results? Well, if you do $30 per day, you're going to get better ads. But if you're talking about just a lifetime budget of $30, so say you do an ad between now and day 3, I want $30, yeah. The problem is with lifetime budgets that I've seen a lot of people run into, myself included, is that Facebook for some reason waits until the end. So they'll use really low bids day 1 and day 2. Or whatever the case is, right? 33% of the time, 66% of the time it's a low bid. The other 33.9999% of the time, that's when they boost up the high bid to spend the money. So sometimes with those lifetime bids, they have a problem of not giving you quality traffic the whole time, just at the last minute or the last day, or however long it is, it ranges. So if you're doing like $30 per day versus $10 per day, of course you're gonna get better traffic. But again, it also comes down to your bid, right? Which is why I suggest going to the manual bidding or playing with it a little bit if you're successful, because it doesn't matter if your budget's $50 a day and theirs is $30. If they have a higher bid, then until they run out of their budget, they're going to get the better audience. Yeah, I initially started $10 a day just to beat out my competition a little bit. And I do start with view content, website conversions of view content. So guys, got 5 more minutes. Any more questions? Feel free to ask the hard ones, right? I've actually done this. I have answers. I want to be able to help you. I've made terrible mistakes that have cost me a lot of money. That's just scary to think back to when first starting. It was almost like gambling debt, where I'm like, oh, I'm just keep going. It's got to win eventually, and I run out of money. I want to be able to help you guys, and I want to do my best to answer things in a non-generic way that you can just find on YouTube. Something that's actually very useful and helpful. So when you've had a winning ad, what do you do with that winning ad? Well, first, you try to scale it, right? So one of my examples is Q4. I had something that did really well. It's Q4, so of course holidays. First thing I did, so I moved it up to like $20 a day, and it did amazing. And I was like, let me try moving it to 30. I moved it to $30 a day, still super profitable. I was like, let me move it to 50. Let me move it to 100. Let me just keep moving it until I can't move it no more. Right? If I made this much profit off of it, that's how much I'm going to reinvest in it until it stops making that money back. So, for example, if my item made me $10, or maybe, let's say throughout the day, total sales made me $60 profit, I'm like, okay, my new budget is $60. Let's see how that does. And if that $60 then moved up to like $100, I'm like, let's try 100. Let's see how far that gets me. And I keep going until it stops. And if it does stop, then I kind of move back down and I trail back down a little bit more slowly. The next thing, of course, like I mentioned, is manual bidding. Once you're successful, move on to manual bidding. Let's make sure you're getting the results that you want for a cheaper cost. Why not save some money and be able to spend it on something else, or even be able to spend it on higher budgets? And the next thing, of course, is lookalike audiences. Building a lookalike audience based off your winner. Usually about 100 purchases. I don't know if it's my targeting or what, but I think probably 9 or 8 out of 10 times when I do a lookalike audience, it actually converts much better than my regular audience did. So I really do trust the lookalike audience process. I only duplicate the ad as a lookalike. I don't personally duplicate the ad in any other way. All right, guys, any final questions? Awesome. Well, hopefully through watching this, you got a little bit more information, whether it's through the Facebook side, whether it's through the marketing side. I'll answer that question in a second. Through the marketing side, through the Facebook side, anything like that. That way it makes you, just gives you a new idea of how to find new products, as well as how to deal with certain situations, right? Again, my main goal is to make sure that you're given information that you wouldn't just be able to find anywhere. I'm sure you can find it somewhere. I obviously learned my information from someone else, so it's out there. But just really, I want to put it into this guru thing. These people that have never done anything that charge you $700 for their courses. It's not necessary, and a lot of times those people aren't real, and they're real, I guess, but they don't have the experience that they claim to have. And I just want everybody to be careful with that, because that's money you can spend on your ads, and that's money and time you can spend doing research from people that actually know what they're doing. Right now, like I said, I'm not coming into this to pitch you guys anything. In fact, I don't have a course or anything like that. I really just want to make sure I call it out that you guys are careful. Please don't waste money on people. Please make sure you're asking for the results, and just being cognizant of who you're looking at. And then, like I said, I'd answer that last question before we end it. So, what do you mean you wait until you're successful to do manual? I wait until I am. If I have about a week, me personally, I wait about a week. If I am successful, which means profitable on my ads for a week, then usually I'll transition and start moving to manual bidding. And again, keep in mind, if I'm successful for like 3 days, or 2 days, then I start scaling my budget up a little bit, right, to see what that fine point is, and then I'll move to manual bidding. And how much you move that budget up depends on the profit of your item, and really depends on how much money you can afford to lose, right? If your profit of your item is great, and then you spend the money, but if you spend that profit and you don't make it that 2 days, you're gonna lose all of your savings account or something. One, you shouldn't be using all of your savings on e-com, and you should only have you should have more than $100. Hopefully, you're investing in e-com first of all, in order to really not have to freak out every time you lose. But the other thing is, we just want to make sure you're scaling, so that way you can see kind of where that tipping point is of how much money you can spend in order to get the best results, and then move to manual bidding. I would just play with that. And again, or if your ad starts failing or not doing as well as another one, then move to manual bidding just to be a little bit more competitive. All right, guys, cool. Well, like I said, this replay will be available. I gotta hop off. Otherwise, I hope you found it very helpful. I appreciate all of you jumping on. If you're not already, most of you on Instagram, you are, Facebook group. If you're not already, follow me at Conrad and shoot me a message. Let me know you found me here. I always reply. Usually, sometimes it takes me a little bit longer, but I always reply. I try to answer questions for you, all that stuff. So hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys are killing it, and I'll be talking to you next week. Adios.